Hello everyone and welcome to 0xInternational, our very first event on the topic of international collaboration. Usually we from 0xA do more tech-focused topics, so this is kind of a bit of a new topic for us, but I hope you like it. And we have 3 amazing speakers with even better talks today. But before we're gonna dive right into the topic, I would like to tell you a bit about who we are, what we do, and all of this. So first of all, who are we? I'm Alex, I'm studying computer science, but 0xA consists of many different students and other people ranging from tech enthusiasts to software developers, mathematicians, and so on. And we really want to be as diverse as possible with regards to cultures, but also your interests and your fields. And our main mission is to bring people together, to learn together, and to share your knowledge. So how do we do this? How do we reach this? Well, we're doing events, like this one, for example. We organize talks where we have one big overarching topic, and then we invite speakers who talk about this topic from different perspectives. But theory is not enough, so we also do workshops. And here you can see a very interesting example, quantum computing. Sounds very theoretical and fancy, but we had actually someone from IBM here in Linz who taught us how you can yourself program a quantum computer right now already. So that was really cool, and that's why we do workshops. Another big point is our chit-chats, which is just bi-weekly get-togethers where we want to bring people together, to enjoy our time, to play some games, to have some fun, to have some snacks and drinks, and to build a community around our mission. This is obviously easier in summer, as you can see, than in winter when it's super cold, but we try to do it anyways. And last but not least, networking. After events, like today, for example, we want people to exchange their ideas and to find new friends, connect to new people, maybe find ideas for new projects. And there's no better way than having free food and drinks and chatting with new people at an event like this. So today you will also have some space to do that after the event. But there's one little caveat. Someone has to organize it. Someone has to do this. So someone has to organize the events. Someone has to take pictures. Someone has to post those pictures on social media, to create fun content, to get more people involved. Someone has to get the idea. Someone has to think about events like this. And this is why we need all of you. We are always happy to have new people in our team. We are always looking for new people who want to maybe just contribute their ideas or help us organize or whatever and gain experience in doing that. So if you're interested or just want to find out more about us, scan the QR code or follow us on social media, or you can also just join any chit-chat at any point in time. We're always happy to talk to you people. And another point, all of this would also not be possible without some sponsoring, some partners. So big thank you to 5 Square, who are supporting us for over the last 2 years already now. They are an AI startup based here in Linz, and they are basically always at the forefront of AI. They have their own large language model, but they also try to predict epilepsy with their new project. So if you're looking for a job, for example, you can check them out. And also big thank you to the Linz Open Innovation Center, where we usually host our events, but we couldn't, sadly, this time. But they always support us with so many things, and they are great co-working space at JKU. And without any further ado, let's talk about what we're going to hear today. So first of all, careers. Kyrillo will talk to us about how you can build your career path, especially as a student, but not only. And then Christina will dive into multicultural science, why it's important for science to be very multicultural and from people with different backgrounds. Then we'll have a short break. And after that, last but not least, Gabriela will talk about networking, how you can do it, especially across borders and across cultures. And then we will have some networking in the end, some drinks, some snacks, and just a chill evening. So let's have some applause for Kyrillo, our first speaker.
You can see my screen, right? It's a white screen, perfect. So, I think many of us could relate to this situation because it's literally me every couple of weeks. You know, you can raise your hand if you have something like that. Sometimes, because it just happens. We all know it. We are students after all. And no wonder that this happens because, according to the statistics, when asked about how prepared students were for getting a job, nearly half of them answered that they were completely unprepared, or at least that's what they felt like. Another statistic is that the majority of students from this prospects research conducted a few years back said that they faced barriers when looking for jobs or apprenticeships. But let's get to the real stuff. Why does that happen? And how do we actually craft our career path? Okay. So in high school, many of us imagine our path as something like this. You get into the university, you finish your degree, and then it's just a straight way to getting a job. But in reality, of course, it usually looks like something like this. Many of us don't really know what we want to do in life, or we face some financial problems, or we just don't know what we're doing. So why does that happen? Is because the university is not the only thing that employers are looking for. The degree, it matters to some extent, but other things that matter are experience, motivation, and adaptability. That's the three main things that employers are usually looking for when trying to give you a job. Yeah, you can basically see. So it's just the degree, it matters, but only to some extent. So let's break these down and see how we can work on those things to get a better career. We first start with experience. Of course, we cannot really get experience without experience, or get a job. You have to get experience for getting a job, but how do you get experience? You have to get a job. So it's an endless loop, which most of us are really confused about. But thankfully, we have some more statistics here. Like 80% of hiring managers value passion projects during hiring. So it's already a small answer that we can use to craft our career path. Working on a passion project, introducing it to your company, and then hopefully they see that you're more motivated than others, and that's how it works. Another thing, 70% of employers make a full-time job offer to interns, with 80% of students accepting them. This is another interesting statistic which proves that having an internship really helps in getting a job. But of course, the questions how to find a passion project or how to land an internship are still open. So let's talk about that. How to get there. Really important. We look at our previous slide once again. So passion is now the highlighted word, because passion is what we should pursue, is what we do with a big desire. We really want to work on what we like, and that's how we find a project that could help us land a job or an internship. For me, back in the days in high school, I was really interested in Linux, in system administration. I was working on a small project to launch rockets for no apparent reason. So this is like a rocket test stand that would measure the energy of a rocket or whatever. I don't remember all this stuff. But essentially, I was really interested in the following technologies, which is a short list, but it was me in high school. And this experience, after a year and a half, actually helped me to get an internship. And it was an internship at CERN, which was really interesting experience, because I could prove that I'm really motivated thanks to my system administration skills and my love for Linux and all that stuff that really matters in that company, because they have a lot of infrastructure. So I started my position as a DevOps developer for just 3 months. But it was really interesting, helped me a lot. Now with this experience, you can actually get a real job, because now you show to your employer that I was motivated to get that internship. That internship gave me some more experience. And in the end, as we said before, experience is something that employers are looking for. That's why you get a real job in the end. Another thing, a side note, you should really consider looking for opportunities because they might help you find your passion. Things like conferences, summer schools, exchange programs, and workshops, they all contribute to growing your network and also helping you understand what you want from life, which is really important when you're looking for something you would like to do. And then in the end, convert it to experience. Experience goes into an internship or a job directly, however you want. Of course, there is a caveat. Me trying to balance my conferences, summer schools, exchange programs with getting a degree. It's all stressful. You cannot really do it at the same moment. So it's kind of a downside, but that's what really matters because again, as I said in the beginning, just a degree, it is helpful. It's nice to learn, and I'm going to talk about that a bit later as well, but all the other experiences that you might get in the end are way more helpful because they show how you want to explore life, how you want to learn, all that stuff. Okay, another side note for this, how to get there. At GQ, we actually have lots of opportunities to go abroad for an internship, a language course, which could also help. You should not avoid that option because, again, you meet new people, you grow your network. Short programs and even research for a thesis or dissertation. There are also summer schools from GQ. All of that is really helpful. Another couple of things that you could use are Erasmus internships, which also exists, which is basically companies that partner with Erasmus network and provide students with short-term programs. And then if you want, you could even go to this Summer Schools in Europe website, look for some summer school, send it to GQ International office, and see if you can land it and get in there while being funded. So these are quite essential, I would say, because they, again, contribute to your experience, they grow your network, and you learn about what you want to do. Really important. Let's see what I have in my next slide. Adaptability, another pillar of crafting your career. You have to be adaptable. Back 16 years ago, New York Times released this article called "In the Creative World, the Only Constant is Change," which I find quite insightful because indeed we change so quickly, everything around us changes with such a speed that you really have to be ready to adapt. That's also something employers often look for, is you being adaptable or having the skill, being flexible, knowing what you do, knowing what you want to do, and being able to sometimes switch from one task to another. Because often your job title does not match what you're actually doing in the job. This is completely normal, and that's the cause of this, I would say, the fact that we change so fast in this rapid world. There is, yes, be ready to learn new things. That's what I wanted to say, apparently. So now, if we look back to what I showed in the beginning, my path, for example, from the university to landing a job, even though I'm still in the university, looked kind of like this. I went from being interested in embedded development to then system administration and DevOps, if it says anything to you. Then, as I got into GQ, I was really fascinated about data science, but then it started slowly decreasing, and I, for some reason, got interested in things like social work and volunteering more, even though I still apply my data science skills from day to day. And this path, you can see that even though in the beginning I kind of went up with understanding of what I want, it at some point went down and went up again and went down. So understanding what I want has really changed drastically since I started studying in the university or even in high school, which is completely normal. And that's what I want to say. Because thanks to all of the experiences I had, all of the exchange programs and internships and summer schools and whatever, in the end, it kind of converged to this understanding that I want this and that. So the trend is obviously going upwards. And I think this applies to most of you, or to all of you, hopefully, because even though at some point in your life you might think that, okay, this is not what I want, thanks to what you did or what you're doing currently, after some time, that still would contribute to the end goal of understanding what you want, which is really important. Okay. Pro tip, keep trying. If you apply for a job and you get a rejection, it's completely normal. It's not a thing that should make you disturbed or doubt your skills and values. Because after all, it often happens that after hundreds of applications, you only get into a couple interviews and then you get one job offer, which is exactly what happened to me because I've been applying to companies for a long time. And after a couple interviews in different companies, I finally found the one I like and the one I actually got, which is Software Competence Center Hagenberg, where I'm working currently. And there is this nice quote from Winston Churchill: "Success is walking from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm," which is exactly the thing that applies to this scenario, because you can keep applying, keep getting rejections, but that's completely normal, and you should not doubt your path. Another pro tip, networking. As I said before, networking is really important, especially if you do it in environments such as summer schools, because you can meet professors and you can talk to them, and they might even offer you an internship if you talk to them over lunch and you say, I want this and that, I'm interested in these two topics. Happened to me a few times, but the best thing you could do is attend more events, because this is what we're doing here. We're talking, we're gonna network, we're gonna exchange ideas. So join more events of the Science Association, and you will at some point converge to understanding what you want in life. Okay, let's talk about recap. My presentation is coming to an end. We have these three pillars. I really love mountains. So we have here passion, working on your projects, and your network are the things that really matter when building your career. Of course, passion, because without doing what you want to do, you're not going to be happy. You should be happy. Happiness is really important, is the most important thing in life. Projects, you should work ideally on something you like, and that contributes to your experience. You can then find a job that you would like that's connected to all of the things you've learned. And the network, of course, as I mentioned so many times already, having a big network of people from different fields, it can help drastically to help you figure out where you want to move in life. Okay, so it's not the destination, it's the journey that matters. I invite you to explore your life like this. There is an infinite horizon of opportunities always. Try things. You can fail, that's normal, but in the end you should know that nothing should stop you from moving on, moving forward. That's really important. And I think that was it. I think that's it for my presentation. You can clap now.
Hello? Yes. Thank you so much, Gurlo, for this amazing presentation. And I can only agree, attending 0xA events is the best thing you can do. Are there any questions in the audience to Gurlo right now?
I'm open for questions. Ask me a question.
There.
How do you not lose your enthusiasm?
So, as I showed with my slide in the beginning, I do lose my enthusiasm. But I have to say, activities like sport and some of my hobbies, they keep me going in the dark times. So, let's just recap. This happens a lot to me as well. This happens to everybody. You just get stuck. It's fine. It's part of human nature. And if you have some additional things in life you want to do, you want to try out, give them a try. Maybe you should just slightly change your path at this current moment, because again, in the end, what keeps me going is the understanding that at some point you find what you want to do. I think that's pretty much the advice here for this kind of question. Thank you.
Any more questions? We still have time.
What is the difference between internship and just a regular job offer?
So an internship you usually get for a couple months, for example. It's always possible to land a full-time job in that company after an internship, which is usually the case. It really helps you to learn. Internships are usually made for students that want to explore the fields that they are interested in and get some real work experience. So that's pretty much the difference. In a real job, you just are employed forever, or till you are not interested in that job, or till you get fired, or till your contract ends. So internships are more like toy projects in some companies. That's it.
Thank you.
No problem.
And one more.
One more for me. Thank you, first of all, for the nice presentation. I wanted to ask you, what was your biggest challenge? Like, you had like this curve down,
Yeah.
and what did you do to overcome this challenge?
Okay. So I would say that I did not still overcome this challenge, to be honest. Like, I'm still figuring it out, as all of you. Because I'm also a student, I'm also working part-time, and I think it's completely normal to not have it all figured out. As for the challenge, I think for me it's really challenging to see where I belong. Is it the industry? Is it the research? Or maybe I don't want to work in IT at all because I started getting into social projects or changing the environment around myself. That's what's kind of interesting for me right now. So the biggest challenge here is probably the fact that there are too many things around myself that I want to try. That's the challenge. It's hard to keep focused and go in one direction. I really want to move and explore all the directions. And I'm still figuring it out. It's not solved. That's the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I have a quick question too.
Yes, go ahead.
Because I was searching about the word career
Right.
the other day because of a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And I understood that career comes from Latin carrera or something like that. I don't speak Latin, by the way.
Same.
And it means basically a narrow path.
Right.
And to what extent do you think that this has changed, like the concept of career for you? Is it still a narrow path, or you don't think this fits anymore?
Thank you for the question. Really interesting, the definition of career, the narrow path, or it's not narrow, that's the question. So I read that article from New York Times where they say that change is the only constant these days. And it seems like the amount of jobs people get per life is increasing drastically. So back in the day where people just got the same job as their parents, they are over since a long time ago. In early 2000s, people have been getting like 3-4 jobs per life. And now I think in our age, we can really just go for 20 jobs in different fields in like 20 years, and that's completely normal. Maybe not 20 years, maybe a bit more, of course. But I think the definition has been changing ever since. So thank you for the question. Really interesting.
Thank you for the questions. Sadly, we can't do one more, but if you have more questions, just ask Kurillo in the break or maybe after the event. I'm sure he will be there for you for a
Yes,
few minutes.
I'm going to be there. Thank you very
Perfect.
much.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much for the introduction and for the invitation, Alex. And thank you, Kirilo, for this wonderful insight. I fully subscribed. Hello, my name is Christina, and today I'll speak to you about diversity in science and multicultural teams. And I would like to start my talk with asking you to picture a scientist. How do they look? What do they do? Where are they located? You got it? Now, picture a famous scientist. Did you picture Albert Einstein? I see. Many of you pictured Albert Einstein. He invented the theory of relativity, amongst many other things. But maybe, since a lot of you are coming from computer science background, maybe you pictured Alan Turing, who pretty much defined what a computer is. Again, quite a famous scientist. Or maybe you thought about someone more recent, someone much more closer, such as Sepp Hochreiter, who invented LSTMs. All right, but I doubt that any of you thought about Emmy Noether, who discovered a very good, I see one, very good, who discovered a very fundamental, very important relationship between conservation laws and symmetries. Or maybe another scientist, Madame Wu, who experimentally proved that the parity is not conserved. Or maybe Amira Abbas, who is a much more recent researcher. She's in my field. She's working on quantum machine learning. And the reason that most of you picture the people on the left and not so many of you the people on the right is because we grew up with the pictures on the left. We grew up with these people being our image of a scientist. And this is our bias, this is our stereotype. And it's not necessarily, usually stereotypes are not necessarily a bad thing, but it's important to recognize them. It's important to know that we have these biases and to overcome them. Especially now when these biases are influencing and they're entering our algorithms. They're entering the artificial intelligence that we're building. Obviously, when I asked ChatGPT to picture a scientist, the same question that I ask you, it came up with these two images. It came up with white, young men next to the board or in a fancy environment with glasses, very stereotypical. Only when I explicitly prompted, picture me a female scientist, it came up with this. And again, quite stereotypical. We have young, white, female with glasses. This is not always how scientists look like, okay? And, and this is kind of the bunch of pictures that I showed you up so far. And there's another problem, or say misconception, with all of these images. Can you guess? One? Yes? Yes, that's true, but that's my personal bias. But that's a very good observation. But I was going for something else. I was going for the fact that all of these people are pictured alone. They're pictured on their own, next to their device or next to their work, on their desks, next to their posters, but they are on their own. And the thing is that science is actually not happening by these lonely wolves who are working and they're hiding in their basement and they're not communicating with anyone for 10 years and then they come up and they have amazing proof that P doesn't equal NP. So this is not how science is done nowadays. Science is in fact done in huge collaborations. For example, this is a picture of the team which discovered the Higgs boson, which proves it experimentally in front of the Large Hadron Collider in CERN. This is 5,000 people. In fact, more than 5,000 people. They broke a record for the publication with most authors. This is how science is done. There's no single person who could have done this by themselves. This is such a huge discovery that we need huge teams coming from different cultures, speaking different languages, male, females, non-binary, old, young. We really need all the expertise that we can do, because the problems that we're facing nowadays are so complex that one single person cannot figure them out. Let me give you another example. This is another team. They made the first picture of a black hole. This is the Event Horizon telescope. And again, you see quite a big team, quite a huge collaboration. Let me show you some data. So in 2011, Thomson Reuters newsletter noted that less than 20% of papers are single author papers. And in fact, this number is 12 for natural sciences. So it's even less. And another research, this time coming from The Economist, reported that the average number of authors on scientific papers rose from 3.2% to 4.4 from 1996 to 2015. And I'm really ready to bet that the trend is uprising. And just to show you some, so to conclude, science is collaborative effort, especially nowadays. And this is a snapshot of the publication. As I already mentioned, the CERN team, they basically broke a record for the most amount of authors on a scientific publication. There's another work which was actually published just 3 days ago. Maybe you have heard about it. It's coming from my field. It's coming from the Google Quantum AI team. They managed to break even, so to do a logical qubit out of physical qubits, which is quite a big result in my field. And again, this is a huge collaboration, more than 100 people coming from all different countries. And my last example, as I already mentioned, the Event Horizon telescope with a picture of the black hole. Again, many, many authors on this paper. And now maybe you're thinking, okay, these are just a few examples. These are very big teams. I'll never work in these huge collaborations. I'll stay here in Linz and do my own science. But the fact is, even if you work in a small group, you probably still end up with working with people from very different backgrounds. And let me give you my personal example. That was my first scientific contribution back when I did an internship. And here I really support what Kirillov said. Internships are very important and they can really boost your career. So that was a publication that we did as a result of my internship when I was at ISTA. This is the Institute of Science and Technology in Austria, close to Vienna. And as you can already see on the picture, and maybe seeing by the names, I worked with Italians, with Greek people, with people from Austria, people from Ukraine, and I'm coming from Bulgaria, so it was pretty international. Another work which came from my master thesis that I did in Switzerland. Again, we have people from Switzerland, Germany, Austria, rather international. And again, I didn't do this by myself. And what I'm currently doing, I'm doing a PhD here, and this is actually the poster that I've been presenting this year. It's again a collaboration, and not only with my colleagues here in the group, and you can already see that the group is quite diverse. We have people from Austria, Germany, Vietnam, but also we're doing this in collaboration with people in Innsbruck. So we're using their device, and we're providing the theory for them. So again, it's quite a lot like dynamical thing, and I cannot do this by myself because I don't have my own quantum computer. So. And I think at this point, I should probably actually introduce myself. I was born in a very small town in the middle of Bulgaria, which I have been trying to escape ever since. And in fact, I managed for my bachelor's when I went to Scotland, to University of Glasgow. And then I escaped even further to UBC in Canada, where I did my exchange year. After that, I went back to University of Glasgow to finish my degree in theoretical physics, and then I went to do my master's at ETH Zurich in Switzerland. Then I kind of needed a break from academia, and I really wanted to see the startup world, get some more internship experience, again, going back to the previous talk. And this led me to Singapore, to a startup called Anthropical Labs. And then I came to the beautiful city of Linz, to JKU, to do my PhD here. And a bit more about me along the way. I also made it to the International Astronomy Olympiad in South Korea back when I was in high school. I was the class representative for astronomy. I was a JP Morgan Chase & Co. intern, and I was a yoga teacher. That's why the picture is with the yoga teacher, okay? I was a YouTuber. Now I see my animation doesn't work, but the YouTuber was not very successful. So if you want to learn how not to do a YouTube channel, you can also come chat with me. I was coach at the ETH week in 2021 and 22. I organized hackathons and I mentored them, quantum hackathons to be more specific. I was appointed leader of tomorrow at the 53rd St. Gallen Symposium this year. I am a teacher at the JKU, as some of you know. And I'm also a TEDx Linz community manager and volunteer. We organize very cool events, so if you want to learn more about TEDx Linz, come talk to me. And why I'm listing all of that? Because I'm afraid that some of you, maybe when you heard that I'm from Bulgaria, you maybe imagined something more like this. I have to admit that I have such pictures. I'm not very proud of them, but I also do that. So if you really imagine that, you're kind of right. So in this case, the stereotype is correct. But yeah, maybe you also imagine some mafia. Like sometimes in the movies, the Bulgarians, the Serbians, they're kind of the bad guys. So maybe you also had this in mind. Maybe you imagine a hacker. Or maybe you just thought about your flatmate who happened to be Bulgarian, or your Bulgarian, or maybe your best friend, or maybe your special friend. I don't know. My point is that no matter what your stereotypes were when you heard that I'm from Bulgaria, if you allowed these stereotypes to prevent you from speaking to me, you would have never discovered that I did all of these things, and you would have never engaged in a conversation. Or maybe if we happen to be in a team, by hearing, oh, she's from Bulgaria, no, I don't like Bulgarians, I don't want to speak with her, then you would have never really engaged with me, you would have never collaborated properly. So again, stereotypes are there for sure, but it's important to realize when you have them, and it's important to overcome them. I'll give you another example. Imagine that, well, a lot of you are computer scientists, you love doing your own apps. Imagine that you want to design a new navigation app because you think you can do better than Google Maps. Then you gather your team of friends, and you have to decide, what would you include in this app? What is the optimal route? What are you basing it on? Most probably you're basing it just on the shortest distance or the shortest time. But would you base it on the path which has the most amount of shade? Well, most probably not, because Linz is not the sunniest city, especially not in November. But if you happen to live in Abu Dhabi, where the streets look like that, where the sun is really killing you, trust me, there you would prefer to walk for 10 more minutes under the shade as opposed to the shortest path but exposed. So there, actually, you would probably optimize for shade. Another thing, would you consider crowdedness? Probably not if you're in Linz, but what if you happen to be visually impaired? Then you would much rather walk on a street which is not so crowded, even if you're walking for 5 minutes longer. Or what about rain shelter? Again, Linz, maybe not so relevant, but what if you happen to live in Singapore, where showers are just, umbrella cannot save you, trust me. So you really have to find shelter, proper shelter. And the point is that when you're designing, if you have a group of friends here in Linz, most likely you will never think about these use cases. You will never think to optimize for these things because you just don't see them on a day-to-day basis. They're not problems for you. But sometimes especially if you're designing a new app, maybe you should target a specific user group. But how are you supposed to target this user group if you don't even know their problems? So by introducing people from diverse backgrounds, people who work and live in Abu Dhabi, people who are visually impaired, people who have lived in Singapore, you can get some new insights. And I'm giving you this example explicitly because this is actually what my team developed during this quantum hackathon in Abu Dhabi, where I was a mentor. And as you can see, it was a pretty diverse team and people that I don't usually would work with. But it was very, very insightful and very inspiring for me to work with them because they had so new ideas and they just brought so much on the table that I would have never thought about. So to conclude, science is done in large collaborations nowadays. This is undeniable. And cutting-edge research is interdisciplinary and multicultural. And that's why it's important to know how to work in such teams, because it's most likely that you end up working in such teams. And that's why it's very important to know your own stereotypes and biases that you carry, such that these do not prevent you from speaking to your team members. Yes, and it's important to overcome them. And how do you overcome biases? Well, by exposing yourself to different people from different cultures, to knowing that not all Bulgarians are drinking rakia all the time, or not all Bulgarians are going to discos, or you name it. So by knowing actually the people, you break your own stereotypes. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Christina. This was super interesting, especially your personal journey. Are there any questions in the audience?
I mean, I'm the one keeping them away from the break, so we can also chat over food.
Hello.
Hello.
I would like to know, how did you have all this courage to do so many changes, to go through so many changes?
I thank you for the question. I think it's just me personally. I'm a huge sucker for opportunities. So if I see, for example, the exchange year, I heard about this after a month after I went to Glasgow. So like imagine me the first time going away, going abroad, I settled down, I went to IKEA, I bought all my dishes and I was like, okay, these are the dishes that I'll be using for 4 years. I'm so settled. And then after a month, I went to this exchange year abroad fair. And then there were people who were telling me that they went to US, to Santa Clara, they went to Singapore, they went to Australia, they went to Canada. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I want to do that as well. And then basically after a month of me saying to myself, I am now settled down for 4 years, I saw myself looking for other places and trying to like figure out how to go abroad again. So I think it's a bit of a personality, but I think it's also in communicating with people and knowing that these paths are even an option. Because if I haven't had gone to this career path, I would have not known that this is even a possibility. And I think by you coming to these events, you now know and you meet so many different people and you're like, oh, this is actually something that I can do. So in a sense, it's almost like finding your own role models. Because sometimes you don't even know if you can do something, but then if somebody has done it before, now you kind of know the path. I hope that answers the question.
Any more questions? No more questions so far? Or one question? One last question, and then you all get some food and drinks.
Probably everyone would agree that your experience is so admirable, and every change was probably a discomfort. How did you overcame this discomfort for every change?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think I can now put in my CV that I'm super good at packing all my stuff in a single suitcase. It's like the ultimate flex. Yeah, I think at the beginning, every time when you start anew, when you move to a new city, there's this phase of your kind of the visitor, you're just exploring the city, everything is so new, everything is so exciting. So I think at the beginning the first phase is actually good. So I wouldn't say it's discomfort, it's more like excitement. I think the challenge is after a few months when you kind of know your way and you know where your favorite shop and you kind of know you've already been to all the museums, then it's like, okay, now what? Now I actually have to settle down and now it's for real. So I think the second step is worse. And I think at this point, having a community helps. Like trying to find these things locally which are happening that you kind of can resonate with. So for example, when I came here, I found 0xLinz. And I think that for me has been very important because it connected me with people who are here. They're very native to Austria, but they also have this international outlook. And through them, I went to quite a lot of their events. I started volunteering with them. So that, for example, eased my transition into, okay, now I feel a bit more connected to the place, to the culture. Obviously, if you're moving to some place with some friends or family, that also can make it better. But if you're moving by yourself, I would really strongly advise to try to find these communities to engage with, to see what's happening. And I can imagine that your association is also giving one such community. So again, for all of you who are here, you're doing great. I can see.
I think we all can get some food and some drinks.
Yes.
If you have more questions for Christina or for Kyrillo, just talk to them. We will do like 20 minutes break, so 10 to 7 we will continue here. And we'll just be downstairs in this glass box thing. You'll see that immediately. And yeah, enjoy your snacks and drinks. So, let us continue with our third talk, and let's have some applause for Gabriela and her amazing talk.
Thank you, everyone. So I was given the mission by Patrick, our president from Isaac in Linz, to explore the topic and help you out when networking globally. First of all, I would like to give a shout out to the organization of our event and every one of you for coming and being here, and especially returning from the short break. And of course to Isaac, without you guys, I wouldn't be so glad to be here tonight. And especially talking about something that is so important for all of you and for me too. So, nice to meet you. My name is Gabriela, but you can all call me Gabi. I prefer that. Here's my contact information. I am the founder and CEO, the co-founder and CEO together with my husband, Mateus, of Speak Now English Academy. I was afraid before the previous talk to say where I was from because of stereotypes. But since you have had this talk before, I am counting that you're not going to be biased. So I'm from Brazil, and that is where I have got my license to teach in college, teach Portuguese and English. I also have an MBA in marketing, business, and growth. And I am also a brand designer and a specialist English teacher. So networking globally comes with meeting people who come from different places around the globe. And for that, if you want to explore more the ways to do that. Of course, we had many recommendations of organizations that can help you do that. But don't forget, there's also Isaac. You can explore, go to their website. There will be a link later for you. So sometimes, or most of the times, when you think of networking globally, you think of what can be holding you back. And it can be many things. But if the case is that English is what is holding you back, I got you. So sometimes you will think, as many of our students, our English alpinists, that your pronunciation is not that good, not good enough. Let's first understand what good enough is, because of course I needed to bring you some numbers. These are from 2023. Approximately 1.5 billion people around the world communicate in English, be it their native language, their first language, or their second or their foreign language. More specifically, 373 million of them only use English as their mother language. On the other hand, 1.1 billion of these use it as their second or foreign language. So you don't need to think of sounding perfect when you speak English, right? The most important is that you can communicate, because it's spoken by so many people around the world as their second language that there's no such a thing as perfect English, or even the standard English doesn't count so much if you can communicate. At the end of the day, we go back to the most, I think one of the originating principles of English, our English Academy, which is communication. And this is my own conceptualization of the word communication. I'm not bringing you the etymology or any official definition, but what I think communication is, and feel free to disagree, is the action of finding common meaning. And it's an action, right? It's something that you have to put effort in order to accomplish. But again, if both ways are putting this much effort and by the end you can find common ground, this is enough. You don't have to speak with a nice and perfect pronunciation as long as you can communicate effectively. Perhaps you can think that you are not ready yet to use English for networking globally. And this can be because you think you're not fluent yet. I would like to point out the word yet as one of my favorites, because actually there's a great thinker that I love very much, who is Carol Dweck. She's the author of the, I think it's a bestseller, Mindset, Psychology for the Future. And she explores a lot the power of the word yet. That resonates a lot with me, and I hope it resonates a lot with you when it comes to thinking that it's achievable, yeah? It's a skill. Communication is a skill like any other. Getting fluent in another language is still a very sophisticated skill. So if you speak more than just your mother language, this is a nice time for giving yourself a pat on the back and say, good job, you've done it. You've learned more, one more language at least. And fluency comes with allowing yourself to make mistakes. Especially you, if you can understand me now, and if you got to understand each other during the break, and you understood the talks that were previous to mine, your level of English is probably intermediate, at least, yeah? And at this point, what happens is you know many of the English rules. You know the rules. You know the structure of the language very well. However, this can stop you sometimes from becoming fluent because you are thinking too much of the rules. You are trying to avoid mistakes so much. And fluency comes with doing the opposite, not thinking so much about the rules anymore and allowing yourself to make mistakes. So forgive yourselves if you make mistakes and learn from them, which is the most important part of learning, yeah? Making mistakes, learning from them. One suggestion for that I see works a lot when you're trying to get more fluent in another language, be it English, this huge universal language, is to time yourself, set yourself a timer, and practice speaking non-stoppingly. If you've ever undergone some proficiency test in English, you know there's sometimes this part of the test where you have to speak about a certain topic. This type of exercise resonates a lot with that because you can really see how far you can go without hesitating so much, without stopping to think so much of what you're going to say next. And one more suggestion, use anchor words. When you need to buy yourself time to think of what you're going to say next, you can extend some words and make them anchor your speech. This will give you time to put your thoughts in order to come out clear. So what I mean by anchor words, here are some examples. You can say, I was going to the supermarket and then I decided to not go that evening because you can extend words like that, like but, like because, and even use some other phrases. But as long as they take 3 seconds or so, they will facilitate your process of coming up with what you're going to say next. I heard this from an alpinist of ours. I think it was in the beginning of this year. He had come to an advanced level of English. He could communicate, adapting his speech to becoming more formal or informal. To any situation, he could use English for communicating very effectively. But still, he would say, I don't think I can be myself in English yet. And I tried to listen more to what he meant by that. He basically meant that in his mother language, he would feel a lot more outgoing and he would be a lot more cheerful and make jokes. But that in English, he could not use this sort of charisma or sense of humor so much. So this way, he felt a bit stiff. And if you feel like that, again, let's go back to Carol Dweck's theory. You can still do it. You can still learn how to do it. You just have to learn it again. Because charisma is, again, a skill, just like any other. You just have to learn learn how to be charismatic in another language. And it comes with practice. And also be very careful with what you tell yourself, because if you keep telling yourself that you can't do something, it's very likely that you won't be able to do this. Because you are implementing a false and negative self-belief that you cannot do something. Instead, say, you can't do it yet, or you can't do it as well as you wish you could do it yet. It's just a matter of time, just a matter of putting some effort into that. And it's a process of learning anything. So if you feel like you can't be yourself in English yet, don't forget to say yet. One day you will. Be patient. Another thing is, you can think of the top 3 biggest life achievements that you had in life. I would like to invite everyone to take a moment to do that. Maybe you want to close your eyes and concentrate and see this movie in your head and go back to the biggest life achievements you've had so far. Maybe it was beginning university or a new job or becoming a parent. This is just for you to have a confirmation that you can do great things. Don't forget what you are capable of. If you were capable of doing all these things, who is to tell you that you cannot be fluent and communicate and network using English for this reason, for this purpose? You can. Okay, but maybe I keep telling myself that I can. I keep listening to positive affirmations every morning. I meditate. I try to tell myself that I can do it. Still, I don't think I believe it much. So here's my... I don't know if you want to take my advice, but if you try it, and this is a whole theory of mine, okay? But I really invite you to try doing it. And come to me again after 1 year or 2, and then you can tell me if it worked or not. Help me have a basis for my thesis. Pretend that you believe. Just for a second, start telling yourself, that you believe that you can do it. You don't have to believe it for real, but pretend that you do. Trust me, after at least some months, maybe 6 months, maybe 3 months, maybe 1 year, pretending that you believe that you can do that, eventually you will start believing, because you told it to yourself so many times, even not believing, that now you do. Now you believe it. Second step. And that was the very first thing to achieve anything, to believe that you can. So we overcame the part that you said, but I can't believe that one day I'll be able to do it. No, now you can pretend that you believe. And suddenly you believe it. And suddenly you become that person that you pretend that you believe you could be, then you believed you could be, now you are. So here's an interesting dynamics that I'm proposing to all of you. You can scan the QR code, and this will give you access to a Notion page. On this Notion page, you will find some questions for networking in English. I tried to keep them very simple questions. You can take a look at them. Besides the questions, you will also find some ways to ask for clarification. And this counts for every situation when you need English for communication, not only when you are networking, but let's say you are in a business meeting, or you are getting to know your colleagues at work, and they are all international, and you need to really listen to what they have to say and understand what they have to say. Of course, you can be very nervous at such situations, but these phrases can help you stay calm and ask for clarification in a way that doesn't sound repetitive, like, sorry, what did you say? Can you say that again? You can sound a bit more confident when you use these words, these phrases. Can I move on to the next? Okay? So is an example of almost like a slang, an anchor word, but you can use some of these, for example, I'm not sure if I get it right. Are you saying that this, and that? This is a nice way to confirm that you got the message. And then the person can correct you. The person can say, no, actually what I meant is something else. But then you escape the feeling of you escape that feeling of awkwardness and desperation when you don't understand what someone is saying, and that is very important. Another example is somebody asks you a question and you don't quite understand what the question was about. You don't know what to answer now. You can say, okay, I'm not sure if this is your question, but are you saying that, are you asking me if this or that? Or you can answer the way you think it is, or you can say anything that is not even the answer for the question you didn't understand. And then at the end you can say, was this your question? So I would like to invite everyone now to stand up for a moment. Oh, awkward. Okay. And with the questions at hand, you're going to look back to the person that is behind you or in front of you on the front row and say hello. Feel free to pair up and do some networking. All right, guys, I don't want to be so evil to ask you to stop. So you can keep networking. I just want to thank you all. And if you have any questions, you can just come and ask me. I don't want you to stop. I don't want you to stop. I am almost emotional because I've never seen such beautiful thing. You are awesome, guys. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this awesome talk and the even better practical exercise. It's worked amazing. Are there any questions for the talk? No question. No, that one question. Sorry.
Such a pity to ask you to stop, guys.
I like the speech about developing some communicational skills, especially in English, but what would you recommend to overcome some psychological limits to communicate with another people? Because probably everyone is familiar with psychological types like introverts, extroverts, and so on and so forth.
Yes, of course. We cannot disregard the personality, but thank you so much for the question, because this has been our biggest challenge so far as educators, and especially what Speak Now promises to help you overcome. The only way out is through. Honestly, by doing what you've done, I'm pretty sure that you already felt better. I hope that you have felt better, even more comfortable just with the idea of communicating in groups, using English for communication. It's inevitable that because it's not our mother language, we don't feel like expressing so freely the same way as if it was in our mother language. In our mother language, it's always more. It's always easier to be affectionate, yeah, to put more feelings into your communication. It's just more. It's just easier, more natural. But yeah, I would say practice. Find people, try out communication in different scenarios, different contexts as much as you can. And if you have a safe space to do that, for example, if you can do this with your roommate and speak only in English where you live, it's also nice.
Question in the very back.
So my question is, what would you suggest for a person to do? Maybe a person that's like more on the introverted side or more shy, especially speaking in their like not mother tongue. If you're like in a full room, like we just were in our break, and it's like everyone seems to be already in a group. Like, how can you bring yourself in while not like disrupting the whole topic?
Okay. I'm not saying, I love the question, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm not saying that my suggestions will be 100% effective, because probably after following my advice, you will feel tired. Because if you're an introvert, you will feel tired after having to put yourself in the world, yeah, like communicate and talk to people like we were doing before. But there are some strategies that I have found interesting and effectful.
Maybe
effective. I knew something was wrong. Along the way, yeah. One thing that I think has helped me particularly, and call me a weirdo, but I have practiced a lot talking to myself in front of the mirror. And, oh my God, that's so egotistic. Yeah, it can be, but at least you know what your facial expressions are and what you are communicating through your body, through your face. Not only, language is not only verbal, yeah, you can use of many other aspects of communication when you communicate. So definitely works and helps you develop charisma, just like in Sims. Just like in The Sims. Another thing is, I would say, that finding the people who will listen, and this is not so straightforward, but if you can find people to talk to that can be in silence, and there's no awkward silence, but you can stay in silence, just chilling, just doing nothing. And when you talk, it's something meaningful. That helps you confirm to your brain that this is good stimuli, and then you will not feel so exhausted by the end. Yeah, but again, also, if you are someone a bit more introvert and you feel so tired after having to do that, find the sweet spot. Yeah, don't feel like you have to overgo your limits. You can also respect your limits in that. I hope it answers.
Yes, thank you.
And with that, if you have any more questions, I think Gabi will be here for a bit longer probably, so just feel free to ask.
I'm here for the beer.
And because it's now exactly 2 hours, I'd like to end it here. Thank you all for attending today, and I wish you all a wonderful evening. We also have still some networking, some food down there, so feel free to finish all the drinks we have, and see you at our next event.